talk about this. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 2 of Let's Talk About This. Tonight's guest is an interesting man. I can't wait for him to share his story. So let's bring on John Elliott.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Elliott, how you doing, my man?
Not bad. It's been a little while, my friend.
Yeah, I feel like you're not even gone because I'm on your page all the time.
Yeah, I get that a little bit. It's funny, for those just tuning in, I'm kind of walking around Australia with 5 camels at the moment, and
With
word
five
spreads a
cameras.
little bit. Word spreads, and the you got Facebook, Instagram. It's a bit like the Bush Telegraph on steroids. You rock up to a town where you don't know anybody at all. You've never been there. And then people just come up straight away with the craziest questions. And
Yeah.
I suppose maybe later on we'll start to see maybe with a little bit of the previous life that I had in comparison to camels. But back when you knew
Yeah.
me,
Don't,
it wasn't always
don't
about
worry.
animals, was it, my friend?
No, it wasn't. Don't worry. We'll build up to it. We'll get to the bottom of this. So first of all, where were you born and raised?
Mate, I was born and raised Perth, mate. I'm a Perth boy through and through. I travelled away from Perth, but I never lived anywhere else. That's the hometown.
Nice. And did you go to university by any chance?
Mate, I actually was expelled from school on the second last day because on the way to McDonald's, we rolled a car. Remember back, they had these specials. Maybe it's just showing my age, but they had a 50-cent cheeseburger special. So we were going down there.
That.
Yeah, everyone at school had given us the money to get everyone's 50-cent cheeseburgers. And the guy on the way back decided to, do some fishtails on the gravel and ended up rolling the car. And therefore, I technically didn't finish. I got to sit my TE, but I didn't get to finish the rest of the school year. Yeah, I have a high school diploma, which I failed pretty miserably. And I never attended university, my friend.
You never? Oh, well, that's interesting. We'll get to the next part, and we'll get back to that as well. Why are you known for being the Camelman? So let's go in depth with that.
All right. Well, for some strange reason, for the last 15 months, I've been walking on a mission to walk through every state with a team of 5 camels. So I started off on April 11th last year. From Queensland to start walking across Australia, and we're about 4 states in. We're about to cross into Tasmania over the next month or so, and then
head swimming
back. No, mate, we thought we'd take the boat, just for fun. Only because it's winter. If it was summer, we'd give it a crack, man. But
I bet you would too.
Being winter, we thought, fuck it, we'll take the boat.
Take the safe option.
Yes. Yeah, so we been known as the Camelman for only about 18 months of my life. Before this, as you know, from our previous life, or from my previous life where we met, it was a very different story.
So tell me, what were you doing before you went on this adventure?
So before this...
For those that are not familiar with you.
Yeah, so before this, back in Perth, I was a CEO of a financial services firm. We had insurance broking and life insurance and all these other fun products that I managed to start a company with Elliott Insurance Brokers back in 2008. And then we... got about 10 years into growing that company. We managed to achieve some pretty cool things. We hit 2 BRW Fast 100 awards, which put us in the fastest 100 growing companies in Australia. We ranked in the top 10 insurance brokers in Australia for probably about six years running. I think it was 6 years running.
So you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, so we did pretty well, but no, it kind of got to a point, my friend, where I realized that money was controlling every decision that I had in life. And not only that, it was also the only way that I could put a grin on my face, buying a faster car or living in a better house, throwing a bigger party, just buying more shit or competing to the guy that was next to me, And
Yeah.
I was living in constant comparison to what the guy next to me had and trying to compete with that. And the only problem that I found with that was that the more successful you became, the more the bar was raised, the more successful the people you hung out with. So
Yeah.
success or happiness or actually gaining that achievement was always one step further than I was ever going to be able to achieve. So
Okay.
there was a big kind of reckoning, a big kind of moment where I thought I could sit in this pattern and be a slave to it for many years to come. And I saw people around me that were 40, 50, 60 years old, still locked in that game. And when I looked at that 50-year-old guy who was in the nightclub, still, showing off his car and trying to pick up that 20-something-year-old, I didn't think he was still nailing it. I felt sorry for the guy.
Yeah.
And so I thought, if you can't change yourself in that environment, let's see what we can do. And that was a bit of a thought process I went through for a little bit. And just at the right time, when I was ready to leave the company, when I was ready to look for that next big adventure, I was chatting to a girlfriend of mine at dinner. There was a few too many red wines.
Yeah. Some
And
brewskis.
she told me this crazy travel story she had in Kenya with camels. And something about camels just clicked. Like to the point where the next day I Googled, how do you buy a camel? And and
Yeah.
literally 12 months after Googling that, I'm off on this massive bloody adventure around Australia with a team of 5 camels. Like that's a condensing 18 months of realization and then 12 months of training to step one. That's condensing that whole process for everyone just down into one quick story for you. And now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now here I am, 3,500 kilometers into my walk around Australia with camels.
So speaking about preparation, what was it you had to do to prepare for this adventure?
Oh,
And
mate.
why camels?
Well, you
Could
see,
it have been done with dogs or with horses? Why camels?
I had to, first of all, what do I have to do to prepare? Well, like, I had to do a lot. And the reason why is growing businesses, insurance broking, and owning a nightclub doesn't prepare you for shit in this game. Like, all I brought to the table is how to drink and mad keyboard skills. That
Yeah.
doesn't do anything for a trip like this. So I pretty much started from scratch, from ground zero. So I was really relying on a team and a network of cameleers and any kind of one that was out and about. Thank you so much. To try and help us get us started off on this trip. So I'm around in a car, just driving around to camel farms or to survival experts, just trying to learn whatever I can in order to get this thing kicked off. So
Yeah.
when I Googled how do you buy a camel, that led me to Lakes Entrance in Victoria with a guy who'd done a 6,500 kilometre camel trek around Australia with a team of 8 camels. So he seemed like the
Okay.
perfect place to start.
Yeah.
So I'm only about 100 kilometres away from Lakes Entrance now because I just finished bringing my whole entire camel team to him and
Yeah. I saw
introducing
that.
him to the team that he helped kind of put
Yeah.
together, or train.
Yeah.
So it almost like it's a 700 kilometre detour to come and visit him. So it was almost like a 700 kilometre homage to my mentor who helped me get this thing started.
That
And
must have been an emotional moment, right?
it was, yeah, there's been a few emotional moments, man. There's been a few. Like in business, you can be proud of what you've done, or you can be happy that you bought a nice car and you can show it off to your friends. And I would smile when something really nice happened. Like I've never had a tear in my eye when something when I've earned something or achieved something. On this trip, I have. Like
Okay.
after the first 2,000 kilometres walking up Parliament House lawn and getting a welcome to country by the Aboriginal elders in Canberra, and then presenting me with the Aboriginal flag to take up Parliament House lawn, and and just realizing I'm at the nation's capital and I've walked there. And I achieved the first 2,000 kilometers when I didn't even know if I could do 1 kilometer of this bloody trek. And I was playing a Rock and John Williamson song on Raining on the Rock on the stereo that I have on the front camel. And and I just felt I know, man. I just felt so Aussie. I just felt so proud to be Aussie. And, I couldn't help a few tears coming to the eyes. I've never had tears in my eyes for something that I'm doing or something that I've achieved or worked towards. It's hard to cry over the fact that your company budget is 20% up what you thought it would be. You can be happy, but it doesn't bring a tear to your eye.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And with this adventure, was there any setbacks leading up before you actually started this trek?
No one really wants to help out a boy from the city trying to run out into the country and get something like this off the road. Not at least at the start. They probably get people all the time coming up going, from the city going, oh, I want a taste of the country life, or I want a taste of this adventurer life, or they want a sample of it. Not many people want to jump in with both feet, especially coming fresh out of the city with no experience. So people either want to charge me like a wounded bull because I did quite well in the previous life, or they would
charge you for what are these charges that you'd get?
So they would want to charge you like when I was trying to acquire my first my camels to go on the trip.
Yeah.
People would be helpful and supportive, and then they'd find out about you and your past and the fact that you did well in business in the city, and it'd go from I'm willing to help you to $2,000 per camel.
Just out of curiosity, what's the going rate for a camel? What's the market for camels?
Funny thing, I ended up getting mine. They were destined to become pet food, and I managed to pick 4 out of these camels that have been caught out of Birdsville in Queensland and taken to a farm near Toowoomba, and I got them for $500 each. But I changed my mind. I didn't want 3; I wanted 4, and it ended up buy 3 get 1 free. So I got 4 for $1,500, and then my little baby camel Charlie, I ended up getting him for free in Gundawindi. So I'd already started the trip and we were on our way. And I see this little white camel in the paddock, and he's in a mob of about 15. I managed to get a hold of the owner, as they call out in the country here, a cocky, which is a farmer. So I managed to get a hold of this cocky, and I said, mate, what's the chances I can buy that little white fella off you? And he goes, oh, look, mate, if you can catch him, you can have him. Right? And I was like, all right, I've never caught a camel before, but fuck it, I'm in, So
did he give you a run for your money?
He gave me a 4-wheel bike, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what he didn't tell me?
What?
It was a 12,000-acre fucking paddock. Right? When I finally found this camel, right, and I finally started to try and round him up and move him into the yards, I had to move him 10.8 kilometers into the yards. I've never caught a camel before. All of a sudden, it's me, city boy, on this 4-wheel bike trying to round up these bloody wild camels.
It's how bad you want it, huh?
Oh, well, it turns out 2 days later, I got him into the yards. Yeah, I wanted it real bad. Yeah,
it took you 2 days.
2 days to get him through, and then once we finally got him into the yard, separated and trained him, I was away 2 days later. So that's how Charlie joined the pack. And look, his name's Charlie, but that wasn't his original intended name.
That usually went to slavery. You changed the name.
Well, close, man. I got this little fella, and he's a pure white camel. And thinking about some of the party and the fun in my previous life, I'm like, I've got it. I want to call him cocaine. I want to call this camel cocaine, right?
Charlie's.
Unfortunately, I realized there's going to be some complications with this, right? And I realized that complication at our first primary school visit.
Oh no.
Right?
Having to explain it.
Yeah, having to introduce the team of camels and leaving the teachers to explain it. So after this awkward encounter that we had, I decided it was best to rename him Charlie.
What's the
And I'm
difference?
like, it's close enough. Cocaine, Charlie, same.
Yeah.
Just less explanations for the kindergartners.
How many schools have you gone through, by the way? Because I always see you pulling up in school.
Yeah, no, we go through a fair few. And now, one of the funny parts is like we generally go through like unannounced. We're just walking past the town. They ask us to come in. Some of the towns that we're going through, these primary schools, man, there's like 5, maybe 6 kids at some of them. You know, we're not talking about a high volume of kids, and then occasionally you go past one that might have a couple of hundred. But the funny part is, man, like I walk into this town, maybe after not showering for about 2 weeks, I'm quite a hairy and disheveled individual. I have a mob of camels and the team of camels on the other side. I have a gun on the side of one of the camels. I have a knife hanging off the side of me. And the first thing they say to me, right, this knife-wielding, unshowered, hairy, homeless man with a gun on a camel, they're like, can you please come in and speak to our children? And
So welcoming.
that's when you realize Australia is a great place to live.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, man. And in terms of food, I remember in your past life, you weren't one of a chef. You weren't one to be a chef, where you didn't cook much.
Well, so tonight I'm enjoying a nice gnocchi.
Yeah, that looks delicious.
With I think it's a pumpkin kind of reduction and sauce with walnuts and some kind of fancy mushroom.
Nice. And who put that out?
So I'm staying at a place called Port Albert. And Port Albert is a small town with only 250 odd people in. But apart from 250 people, the other thing that it has is this mad-ass restaurant called Wild Fish, right?
Nice.
Started by this lifelong fisherman who's just like built this restaurant that seems so out of place for such a small little town. So I've been making my way through the menu because the locals always look after the Camelman when he rocks up to town.
Yeah, I've seen.
And enjoying a Last Supper kind of thing with a bunch of the locals before I head off to the next place. So they're giving us a full tasting sample of the whole entire menu here, which is really awesome because I don't get much time in places. You know, I get a few days here and there. So one of the amazing things about this trip has been seeing the locals just come out of nowhere. And I'm not just talking about appreciating the finer things and the nice things. I'm talking about the full variety of Australia. All right.
Yeah.
And when I say this, like this was prevalent even in the first, say, 3 weeks of the trip, where I pull up to one place and there was this guy that came out. He was clearly high as a kite on drugs, right? Yeah. High, like off his chop, off his rocker. Yeah. He was mesmerized by the camels, right? Yeah. Hadn't been camels there before. Long story short, this guy ends up inviting me into his house. He said he was going to cook me dinner, but it just ended up being a fair few beers, right?
Okay.
The next morning we wake up and he goes, I realize I forgot to cook you dinner last night. So that morning for breakfast, he makes me curry butter chicken with rice.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
It wasn't too bad actually. And when I left his house that day, he had a ham, cheese, and tomato sandwich, a packet of cookies, and a packet of crisps, and a juice popper box for my takeaway lunch. Yep.
This is
Yeah.
hot.
And it was only 5 days later that I was on a big state, like a larger kind of property, a station,
Yeah,
where this multi-million-dollar farmer took me up in a plane to show me around where I'd walked and where I was going to walk. And that was
yeah,
5 days difference between staying a guy struggling with drug addiction, right? He
yeah,
was obviously clearly a nice guy, right? But just
yeah,
going through his journey with whatever he was doing through to
yeah.
a multi-million-dollar farmer. And I realized how much this journey was really going to give me a taste of every single
Everything.
thing and every single
Absolutely.
person that Australia has to offer.
That is beautiful, man. And in terms of your own cooking and food, how do you work with suppliers?
So I've got two different things that, two different kind of setups, right? So with my fresh food kind of stuff, that'll all be good for a couple of weeks, right? So I've got a 35-litre Waco fridge on the side of one of my camels. I don't think there's too many camel trains that have a fridge, but I do have a fridge. Yeah, that works.
T100, huh?
Yeah, man, that works off a big lithium battery, and
Yeah,
then we have the dry food supplies, and the dry food supplies that's running off. That's basically things like lentils, split peas, but then also the freeze dried stuff that you get from any camping shop through like
yeah,
Backcountry Cuisine or something like this.
yeah.
Backcountry Cuisine does things like, uh, roast chicken, spaghetti bolognese, Thai chicken curries, and your savory kind of stuff like that. But they also do like freeze-dried apple pie, apricot crumble,
Nice.
strawberry ice cream.
Yeah.
You heard me right. Strawberry ice cream, free-dried. It's fucking astronaut food, man. All right. So I get even when it goes to shit and I haven't been through a town for a while, you've got some
Yeah,
pretty good lightweight alternatives to be able to eat. I'll really be relying on them as I cross the center, but the East Coast has been really good because we're getting a lot of host families and
yeah.
communities and towns. Uh, and I tell you what, if I wasn't an alcoholic before, I'm damn close now because the farmers can drink, man, and they rock up never empty-handed.
Yeah. I remember when I was in Melbourne for the comedy festival, I was gonna meet you up. Do you remember that before all
Yeah,
this
yeah.
COVID stuff? Yeah, like we had set up to meet up in Victoria, and I was gonna drive down and possibly spend a night with you and your. Oh, that sounds terrible. With you and your camels.
Yeah, mate.
And then COVID,
But that's what a lot of people do, man. Like they're in the area, they come out and they spend a night, man. Like spending a night on the camel
yeah,
track. Yeah, I remember this.
yeah, man. I was very bummed that didn't come to fruition. To have the camel experience that you're having right now.
Well, you
With
see,
the fact that you
I got another 2 years, man, and I'm heading towards Perth, man. So
don't
it's
don't you worry.
it's happening. It's happening.
I would definitely try to make the effort to come see to spend a night and whether it's flying down or driving down, I will try to make a conscious effort to come because I have
Yeah,
been
man.
fascinated with your journey since day one. Have you had any
Yeah, man.
scary moments?
Um, we nearly got engulfed by fire. We nearly fell off a cliff. We walked straight into the middle of COVID. I've had camels freak out on a highway with B-double, multiple, massively tonned trucks going past us. Yeah, I woke up on fire one night. My whole entire swag was on fire. Log had rolled off, and literally I didn't wake up until it was half engulfed my whole entire swag. But no, other than that, it's been pretty crazy.
You make it sound so casual, man. Yeah, I almost caught on fire with no one to help me out.
There have been a few, man. Like that one where we dropped off the cliff.
Yeah, I saw that one. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we had walked into this place up in the high country, going in between Jameson and Lacola, in the high country of Victoria, and we headed down this horse bridle trail, but we're on pretty sheer kind of cliffs, hills, whatever you want to call it. Regardless of what you want to call it, It's anywhere between a 50 to a 200 meter drop straight down to the river on an angle that's either like that or like that. All right?
Wow.
Your track is about 1.5 to 2 meters wide, and my camel train is 1.5 to 2 meters wide.
True.
So we went in, and I knew it was pretty hairy on the way in, and I locked down in. There's a lot of these high country huts, riders' huts, and stuff like this. I locked down in a mercury mining hut. So it's a really old manual mercury mine from when they used to mine that crap by hand.
Yep.
And I was in there for 5 days and I couldn't move because of torrential rain coming in. We had 180 mils of rain, like a stupid amount of rain. I couldn't get out the other way. I had to build a bridge, literally had to build a bridge that would support 5 camels going across it, 3.5 ton going across it by hand.
That's crazy.
That bridge had to be 4 meters wide from point to point, and the gap to cross was about 2 meters. So you had to have a meter into the soil each side. Got across that part. Then I had to start heading back up the track where we were at risk of falling off again. And there was a bit of water going across the track. I thought we could make it. I got the first 2 camels across. All the 5 camels are tied together. Third camel immediately drops as soon as we cross where this water's going across the track. And I realized after, not during, all I felt is the camel drop, and then the camel starts screaming. I just saw this camel start to fall. I had about 5 seconds to figure out whether I was going to lose the whole camel lot or what I should do. So I grabbed onto the outside of the camels. Was in between the cliff and the camels, come across the outside to see where, what was happening with that camel, and he's dropped down. The whole track's given way. The track has just fallen away. So he's become an 800 kilo dead weight in the middle of the line. So being a camel man, you always have a knife on you. So I just grabbed the knife out straight away. Right, and start sawing into the rope that's attaching him to the camels in front and behind. Within seconds, both of us have fallen down that cliff. And the first thing I feel is an 800 kilo camel loaded up with gear rolls straight over the top of me. So that shoves me straight into the blackberry bushes and the rocks. Normally getting caught in blackberries is not great, but for me, it stopped me falling. So he kept going until he hit a tree. As soon as he hit that tree, I was pretty happy because 10 meters beyond that tree was the Jameson River, which after all that rain was just torrential. It was just flowing. So the first thing I feel is my dog licking my face. He's the only crazy fuck that... Brusky, my dog, the cattle dog dingo. First thing I feel is him licking my face. He's the only crazy fuck that voluntarily jumped off that cliff.
Oh, true. Rusky to the rescue, my man.
So, mate, I get down there and I start cutting the gear off him, but it's a miracle he didn't break a leg or anything like that because he fell about 40 meters and he rolled about 6 times, So you imagine what a car looks like rolling down 6 times over a cliff like that. The fact that an animal came out with minor scratches is amazing. But then I still had the mission. I had to get that camel 40 meters up a cliff. So we dug goat tracks. We dug goat tracks and we anchored him tree to tree. And by we, I mean me and Brusky. And when I say me and Brusky, without Brusky barking at the back of him and occasionally giving him a nip on the back legs as a bit of encouragement, I think I would have struggled to get that camel back up. So he did help. And I got him up to a point where he could be rescued. And that's when I walked down the track a little bit further and found out that I had another 2 camels over the edge.
Oh, just gets worse.
So that's when I pressed the emergency services, the SOS, and got some help in. And,
do you have a panic button?
Yeah, my GPS, my Garmin InReach GPS has an SOS feature. So that has a feature where I can press on, and the good thing about it as well, unlike an EPIRB or something like this, is I can actually text and correspond with emergency services. So I can tell them, hey, it's not just some lost hiker. I've actually, got a couple of camels off the side of a cliff here.
Yeah.
You might need to bring in some heavy ropes here, boys.
Yeah, imagine having to receive that phone call.
I know, right?
Oh, that's hectic. So how long did it take for the response team to come through?
3 hours.
3 hours. So you're on the edge of the cliff, hanging there for 3 hours, waiting for the response.
Yeah, pretty much.
And what was going through your head?
I was able to go back and forth between the camels, but the camels were all off the edge. I managed to use the shovel to dig them some stable ground, so that they weren't like hanging off the edge of the rope. They were pretty comfortable, but I just couldn't get them up. I'm one person. They're between 600 and 700 kilos. I'm not lifting them up myself.
Yeah, that's a miracle, man. So when the emergency services came, obviously they had some rope. Did they have a vehicle or a
pulleys, snatch straps, and the big thing was manpower. And mate, look, I left $1,000 bar tab on at the local bar where those boys helped us out, because they're all volunteers, man. They're all CFA, police, and SES services that kind of helped us out. But I tell you what, from what I've heard from those boys, they wouldn't give a shit about the bar tab. They just love that that they've got the story, and they've started what they call the large animal rescue unit, just in case any other camels or horses drop off the side of a cliff. They reckon they're the boys to call, man.
Well, I'll note that in case I decide to go on an adventure myself. Do you have any regrets with this adventure?
No, not so much. Like when people like ask, like, would you like to be back in the previous life or whatever, obviously when you look at one extreme of one versus one extreme of the other, like when I'm in the shit in this part, and then I look at the best part of the other life, you go, oh yeah, of course it would be. But if I look at a 2-week block of the previous life and a 2-week block of this life, then I'm really glad with what I'm doing. But like everything I did in the previous life facilitated this. So there's no regret with what with the fun and sometimes crazy stuff that happened in the previous life, and there's no regret with the transition into this. And look, I've only really just started this. It's only 2 years in. Like, I spent
how long?
I spent 10 years in business, right? Yeah. No one. When I was in business, no one came up to me and said, "How long are you going to be doing this shit for?"
I got a question, by the way. So you said that you never went into university, but yet you had a successful business. Was there any sort of training that you had to get to acquire that?
No. I knocked on doors. I was a salesperson, right? And I love speaking to people, right? Yeah. So when I found my product, when I found something that I really believed in, when I found something that I could actually mold a product and get involved with, then I threw everything at it. And one of the great things about insurance was, right, if you do a really, really good job, right, and you do what you say you're going to do, they don't just buy off you once. The next year they renew the product. They buy it again.
That's right.
So I was able to build a recurring income stream from that.
Yeah.
And that was able to facilitate me to do other things around in life. So I was a salesperson that was only as good as his last week until I found insurance. When I found insurance, I was only in there for 14 months or so when I went, I really want to do this for myself. And it was only 14 months into the industry that I started Elite Insurance. And we just happened to maybe because of my lack of training or because of my lack of experience in the industry, we just looked at things really differently. And when we looked at things really differently, we were more looking at what the hell does the customer want, as opposed to how the hell should I be doing this, or how have I been trained to do this. And I wasn't really trained to do it any particular way, which got us to doing online products, looking after tradies, right? Listening to them and going, what do you want? You want a certificate of insurance? You want it right now? Great, we'll do all of that right for you, right fucking now online. Because you need that certificate to get paid. You need that certificate because...
Yeah, sorry. What happened with that business, Elliott Insurance, that you had?
So that's the only business that I've kept. The first one I started is the only one I ended up keeping. So
that's still running?
Yeah. Yeah, the nightclub, I kind of had a percentage in that. And I kind of, I ended up opting out of that there because the business partner and that was a bit of a dick when as soon as this is one of the things I found in business, right? As soon as money becomes in abundance or extremely scarce, that's when you find the true colors of someone, right?
Yeah.
Right. When it's in abundance, they think that they deserve more of it, right? And as soon as it becomes extremely scarce, right, they become extremely critical of everyone else other than themselves because it's not their fault. Yeah. Right? It's when you really see the true colors of someone in business. It's when it's in abundance or when it's scarce. When it's in the middle ground, everyone can operate and just carry on as normal. But yeah, it's the nightclub guy. It started to get scarce because of all the pop-up venues and other stuff, and he wanted to blame everyone else around him other than him. So we just called on some loans and shut the club down. And I tell you what, bloody good we did because with all this Corona stuff, you know, there's no way venues like that survive. You know, it's been really tough for a lot of the hospitality industry at the moment.
Yeah,
I feel so sorry for them all.
Yeah, I hear that. A lot of businesses have closed due to the COVID-19, which is very sad. Only the strong survive, man. Only the strong survive.
Yep.
So when can we expect to see you back home?
In Perth?
Yeah.
Look, so the problem right now is the border crossings. So I may have to wait a bit to get into Tassie. I kind of feel that once I get out of Tassie, then I've got to go back into Victoria and then out of Victoria into New South Wales to South Australia to Northern Territory to WA.
You're traveling up and then down.
Yeah, so I'm going down to Tassie, then up to Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, Northern Territory, across to WA. Now, that's a lot of border crossings in uncertain times, and then you cross that with how much of a stubborn prick I am. Right, I'm probably going to wait at the border each time. Right, so who knows how long I'll be waiting at these borders, mate. But one thing's for sure.
Initially, how long was this journey supposed to take?
Well, initially it was meant to be straight from east to west coast. So it was initially meant to be about 10 months. Oh, once I started adding all the states in, I thought about 2 years. Now with Corona, I probably about three years. So I've done over 1 year already. So about 2 years to go.
So 2022, you'll be back.
2022, something like that.
And you mentioned something about a charity that you're in partnership that you're working with.
100%, man. Like, I was very, very certain I wasn't going to support a charity on this trip. It's one thing I was certain on, but I was certain that this was going to be something that was just solely for the adventure. You know, like for no money, not asking anyone for anything or anything like that. And that was my mentality when I put the trip together. And I went to my local GP to get a just an all-over checkup. You know, like I'll piss in a cup, take some blood, make sure I'm okay to do this trip.
Yep.
35 at the time when I went to the GP and did that. And anyway, the doctor just happened to be a skin specialist. And so he goes, I'm going to do an all-over skin check as well. He found a stage 1 melanoma in the center of my back. Right? If I wasn't doing this trip, I never would have got that check.
Yep.
Right?
This trip saved you.
I started this trip without a why, man. Like, how much more of a big why do you need other than that? I was an office worker. There's no way I would have got that check until it's too late. I know that.
Yeah.
Right? So I caught a real lucky break. And so melanoma is a pretty big killer in Australia. And majority of the charities that I saw that were supporting it were all based around care and support services once you had one. There wasn't many charities that I could find that were actually helping people catch the same lucky break that I was. And then I found Beard Season. They do pop-up skin check clinics, and they do it at pubs. They do it at beaches, right? They do it at places where people are going out never expecting to get a skin check. Bang, there's a skin check clinic there in the middle of the pub, and you can have a beer and then go in and get your skin checked and potentially save your fucking life, man. Like, and I'm like, these guys get it. These guys get it. Right? The coolest guy ever started it, Jimmy Nichols. He started it after losing their best mate at 26, man. 26 fucking years old. They lose their best mate. So it's crazy, right? Crazy. So I started supporting them, and for every $7,000 we raise, we take one of those skin check clinics to a regional town that doesn't have access to a specialist. And from going through a lot of these regional towns, I can fucking tell you that, like, because there's no access to a specialist, the young blokes just don't get checked. They just do not get checked. Yeah. I'm currently carrying the ashes of a person from the last major town I went through, because the mum gave me the ashes of their 30-year-old son to take him on one last adventure. All right.
Oh, good with you, man.
Yeah, man. His name's Dan, and I've got his stubby holder, his last beer, and his ashes. And if I'm at camp by myself, a second chair set up, and his beer goes in, his ashes go on the chair, right? And I sit down and I have a beer with him. Apparently, this guy was a bit of a party animal, but I don't really get that because he never finishes his fucking beer.
You're a man among men, Elliot. I really do miss you, man. So we've come up to the part of the show where I've got some questions now. Joe has got a question.
What the end goal is? Well, the end goal. Oh, by the way, hey Joe, how you doing, buddy? So the end goal would be just to walk through every state. You know, no one's ever taken a team of camels through every state. Main reason is they've never gone through the Australian Capital Territory, and no one's ever taken them to Tasmania on a mainland camel track, mainly because there's no reason to. This is just doing it for shits and giggles and just to do it for the sake of doing it. So I'm not really fussed on how fast it happens, how slow it happens, or what exact route I take. I just would really like to weave through every state. And look, a part of that is just because I haven't even been to every state. I'm an Australian. I haven't even seen all of my own country. So what a way to do it with a team of 5 camels behind you and a trusty dog at your side, you know, like great way to see your own country.
Do I have any more questions? Also, Elliot, how many newspapers have you been in? You're making headlines all through Australia.
Look, I think there's been a few, shall we say. I think the last time I counted was about 25 front pages, which is kind of nice. It went a little bit turbocharged when we fell off the side of a cliff. and that started to
Yeah.
go a little bit international there. But look, I think the main thing is a lot of the news that you see, or something that would take a headline, or something that would take a news story, would be how someone fucked up, crashed a car, was murdered,
Yeah.
charged with something. All right,
Never
it's
comes.
something a little bit shitty. So I don't really
Yeah.
care about whether I'm the front, back, middle, all right, whatever it is. It's just nice that it's something about someone's just
Something positive.
taking a stroll and some
Yeah.
people enjoying it. You know, it's kind
Absolutely.
of nice that the news actually gives a shit about something that's
Yeah.
happening that's just just kind of a nice story and a bit of a distraction from maybe the drought that I've walked through, the fires that I came through, and then the COVID that I ran into. You know, people are sick of reading about this shit. You know, they
Yeah.
just want to
You're
read
absolute
about
survivor,
something that's
man.
a bit nice. And
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolute survivor, man, and a true inspiration. If people want to find you, how do they find you? What are your social media handles?
yeah, mate. Well, the easiest way to find me, honestly, is just Google John Camelman. Right, you Google that,
Simple.
my website comes up, and from my website, johnelliott.com.au. But from that, you can find my Instagram, you can find my Facebook. Right, my Facebook even has a live GPS tracker. You can see everywhere I've been, where I am right now,
Brilliant.
right, and you can see when I'm moving exactly where I'm heading. You know, like so. It's a bit of an open journey. If there's anyone over and out of the COVID zone that wants to pop in and see the camels, you're more than welcome. Come and socially distance and pat a camel. They don't have COVID. You can pat them.
Terrific, terrific. Hey, Elliot, man, it's been an absolute blast, man, having you up on my live. I will keep up with your adventures, and I look forward to talking to you real soon, man.
No dramas, man.
Well done on what you're doing, and thank you to your host that are looking after you tonight as well. I look forward to
That's all
talking to
right.
you soon.
All
I, hey, all right,
right.
all right, brother. I'll talk to you soon. All right,
See you, mate.
ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good evening, and good night. Bye.